Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. This video will be a reading and a study of Leviticus chapter 6. That is Leviticus chapter 6, continuing the book of Leviticus. And as per usual, as I start these study videos, I'd like to go ahead and start with the prayer of the Lord's Prayer, as it is written in the book of Matthew chapter 6. And it reads, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Okay, so continuing on in the book of Leviticus, chapter 6. If you remember, just a quick recap of what we've been doing, or what we've been learning. If we go back all the way to Genesis, we remember obviously we're going over the children of Israel. They in the book of Exodus, they left Pharaoh and they built a tabernacle. God instructed them how to build a tabernacle, and so they've built that tabernacle, and that's where God is now residing in the holy of holy places. And he's having the people make sacrifices for when they sin, and when they make trespasses and so forth, and also when they want to make peace offerings. Remember Leviticus 1, we went over burnt offerings. Leviticus 2, meat offerings. Leviticus 3, peace offerings. Leviticus 4 was sin offerings. Leviticus 5, we had the trespass offerings. And Leviticus 6, we're going to go over laws of the offering. So I'll go ahead, and as I normally do, I will show a quick outline of Leviticus 6, laws of the offerings, what we're looking for in this chapter. It's a chapter of about 30 verses. And verses 1 through 3, we're going to be looking at committing sins unknowingly. So you can commit sins knowingly, not unknowingly, but knowingly. Verses 4 through 7, making restitution. Verses 8 through 13, we're going to read about the law of the burnt offering. Verses 14 through 18, we're going to read about the law of the meat offering. Verses 19 through 23, the offering of Aaron and his sons. And verses 24 through 30, the law of the sin offering. So keep that in mind, 30 verses in this chapter, and this is what we're going over: the committing sins, making restitution, burnt offering, meat offering, Aaron's offerings, and the law of the sin offering. Just keep that in mind as we read through it. And what I normally do, per usual again, is I read the whole chapter straight through, and then we reread it, just letting the Holy Spirit explain it out. So I'll go ahead and get that going now, and let's read Leviticus chapter 6 in its entirety. And it reads, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, If a soul sin and commit a trespass against the Lord, and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered him to keep, or in fellowship, or in a thing taken away by violence, or hath deceived his neighbor, or have found that which was lost, and lieth concerning it, and swearing falsely in any of all these that a man doeth, sinning therein, then it shall be, because he hath sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore that which he took violently away, or the thing which he hath deceitfully gotten, or that which was delivered him to keep, or the lost thing which he found. Or all that about which he hath sworn falsely, he shall even restore it in the principal, and shall add the fifth part unto thereto, and give it unto him to whom it appertaineth in the day of his trespass offering. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Lord, a ram without blemish out of the flock, with thy estimation for a trespass offering unto the priest. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord, and it shall be forgiven him for anything of all that he hath done in trespassing therein. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the burnt offering. It is the burnt offering because of the burning upon the altar all night unto the morning, and the fire of the altar shall be burning in it. And the priest shall put on his linen garment, and his linen breeches shall he put upon his flesh, and take up the ashes which the fire hath consumed with the burnt offering on the altar, and he shall put them beside the altar. And he shall put off his garments, and put on other garments, and carry forth the ashes without the camp unto a clean place. And the fire upon the altar shall be burning in it, shall not be put out, and the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and lay the burnt offering in order upon it, and he shall burn thereon the fat of the peace offerings. The fire shall ever be burning upon the altar, it shall never go out. And this is the law of the meat offering. The sons of Aaron shall offer it before the Lord, before the altar. And he shall take of it his handful of the flour of the meat offering, and of the oil thereof, and all the frankincense which is upon the meat offering, and shall burn it upon the altar for a sweet savor, even the memorial of it unto the Lord. And the remainder thereof shall Aaron and his sons eat. With unleavened bread shall it be eaten in the holy place, in the court of the tabernacle of the congregation shall they shall eat it. It shall not be baken with leaven. I have given it unto them for their portion of my offerings made by fire. It is most holy, as is the sin offering, and as the trespass offering. All the males among the children of Aaron shall eat of it. It shall be a statute forever in your generations concerning the offerings of the Lord made by fire. Everyone that toucheth them shall be holy. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they shall offer unto the Lord in the day when he is anointed, the 10th part of an ephah of fine flour for a meat offering, perpetual, half of it in the morning, and half thereof at night. In a pan it shall be made with oil, and when it is baken thou shalt bring it in, and the baken pieces of the meat offering shalt thou offer for a sweet savor unto the Lord. And the priest of his sons that is anointed in his stead shall offer it. It is a statute forever unto the Lord. It shall be wholly burnt. For every meat offering for the priest shall be wholly burnt, it shall not be eaten. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the sin offering. In the place where the burnt offering is killed, shall the sin offering be killed before the Lord. It is most holy. The priest that offereth it for sin shall eat it. In the holy place shall it be eaten, in the court of the tabernacle of the congregation. Whatsoever shall touch the flesh thereof shall be holy. And when there is sprinkled of the blood thereof upon any garment, thou shalt wash that whereon it was sprinkled in the holy place. But the earthen vessel wherein it is sodden shall be broken. And if it be sodden in a brazen pot, it shall be both scoured and rinsed in water. All the males among the priests shall eat thereof. It is most holy. And no sin offering whereof any of the blood is brought unto the tabernacle of the congregation to reconcile withal in the holy place shall be eaten. It shall be burnt in the fire. All right, and that is Leviticus chapter 6 in its entirety. Okay, so it's concerning the sacrifices here. They're burning sacrifices in the tabernacle, and of course, if you remember, and I will go ahead and make sure I get up some of these pictures here. The tabernacle complex. Remember, this is what they built back in Exodus. And at this bronze altar right here, they are coming in through this gate right here, and they're making the sacrifice at the gate and then bringing it in to be burned here. And then remember, occasionally some of the blood makes it all the way to the altar of incense, and that's important to remember because that was back in Leviticus 4 when we talked about the sin offerings, that they would make the blood and they would come put the blood out here for when the priest or when the congregation sinned. But that's what's going on here, and keep that in mind, that they are burning all day long. This fire is going, is what it sounds like. And remember, in Exodus, when these people left Egypt, they had I want to say it was 600,000 men alone. So keep that in mind, that there's roughly probably at least 1 million people running around this camp, and this is there's a whole family with Aaron and his sons, the Levite people. That's why this is Leviticus, the Levites. They are in charge. They're the priestly people. So they're doing all of this for the 600,000 people that are in this, the men that are in the camp alone. So they're all day long. It's like a court system, what we would know as like a court. They have issues concerning them. And when things go, when they break these laws, when they sin, this is when they have to come and do this sacrifices and so forth. So I will go ahead and read this again. Like I said, line by line, as I normally do. And you know what, before I do, one more time, I'll go over this. We're going to go 1 through 3, committing sins knowingly, making restitution 4 through 7. Let's get started in that. 1 through 3, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, if a soul sin and commit a trespass against the Lord, and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered him to keep, or in fellowship, or in a thing taken away by violence, or hath deceived his neighbor. So this is explaining to you exactly what this sin is. If you commit a trespass against the Lord, or you lie to your neighbor, somebody gave you something to hold on and you lied to them, and you take it away, or you take it away by violence, or you deceive your neighbor. So if you steal something, or if you take it from them by violence, or if you trick them and tell them maybe, oh, I lost that, or somebody else stole it while you were away, or whatever, that's committing a trespass. That's committing a sin right here. And more, continuing on, or have found that which was lost, and lieth concerning it, and sweareth falsely, in any of these that a man doeth, sinning therein. So obviously, if you found something that was lost, or you lied about something, or you swore falsely. So remember, swearing, that was in chapter 5. This what it meant to what it what you would be doing. Swearing was a sin. It was a trespass. Remember, I made mention of that. Making promises. We're not supposed to be making promises. We're not supposed to be swearing. Because it has to do with keeping your word. And obviously, if you swore falsely, meaning you promised something that didn't happen, or that's also just lying, you sinned, and you had to make restitution. Remember, 4 through 7, making the restitution. Then it shall be, because he hath sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore that which he took violently away. So if you've done this sin, you have to return it. You have to fix the problem here. He shall restore that which he took it violently away, or the thing which he hath deceitfully gotten, or that which was delivered him to keep, or the lost thing which he found. So if you steal something in particular right here, you got to return it. You have to return it. Or all that about which he hath sworn falsely, he shall even restore it in the principal. And then you shall add the 5th part more thereto, and give it unto him to whom it appertaineth in the day of his trespass offering. And I believe we went over this back in Exodus too, where they were explaining that if they stole some things, they had to restore a 5th to it. And then there was also some other regulations that they might have to restore another 5th of it to someone else, and so forth. But anyway, that's laws. This is a sin, so you have to pay it. And remember, I do remember this was also kind of mentioned in Exodus. I don't remember which chapters of Exodus, but it was mentioned back there that they would have to do this. And he shall, but I don't believe the sacrifice necessarily was mentioned back in Exodus that I can remember. off the top of my head. But here it's saying that not only are they paying back, they also have to make a trespass offering unto the Lord. So keep that in mind. Let's see. You have to give that money back and you have to return it in the day of the trespass offering. So when you come to make your trespass, that's when that's when all your fine is due. Like I said, this is very much like a court system. If you steal something, you got to go to court in today's modern world, and they usually arrest you, put you in jail, and then they eventually take you to court. At which point, if you're found guilty, they sentence you, and this is obviously what's going on. The day of the sentencing, they're being sentenced. They have to pay it back, a fifth part, and they also have to make this trespass offering. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Lord, a ram without blemish out of the flock, with thy estimation for a trespass offering unto the priest. And remember, that was mentioned in the last chapter, chapter 5, I believe. The trespass offering. You had to bring the trespass. So not only are you paying back what you stole, you're adding a fifth part to it. You're making this trespass offering, which is a ram, and you're also bringing an estimate of its worth, also for the value of the ram itself, and you got to give that to the priest. So wow, keep that in mind. You're paying back what you stole. You're adding a fifth of what you stole. You're having to pay a ram on top of that to the priest, and not only are you sacrificing a ram to God, you're also sacrificing its value, the money that it's worth, to the priest. So if you commit a sin such as stealing, look how much you have to pay back. It's not worth it. You've got to pay. But then the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord, and it shall be forgiven him for anything of all that he hath done in trespassing therein. So that's another thing. Keep in mind, this is quite different than I would say from our current here in America. If you steal something, usually the person that you stole it from, sometimes they may not even get it back. Obviously, they do usually make you pay for, they have like victims compensations and all that. But then they also usually throw you in jail. And this seems to be not the case. And that's the one reason I really kind of pointed out. You pay everything back, you make your sacrifice, and then you're forgiven. Whereas our court systems really doesn't have that kind of forgiveness. Once you pay everything back, they still kind of usually want you to go to jail anyway, just as part of the whole deal. Usually, of course, that's not in every situation, I would imagine, but that seems to be the case, but not here in the Bible. Once you make your atonement, then you're forgiven. So, yep, but moving on, 8th to 13th, we're going to have the law of the burnt offering. So remember, this whole chapter is the laws of the offerings. So that's expanding the first 7 verses. That's expanding on this, the previous, the trespass offering and the sins offering. But we're going to now move in 8 to 13 is the law of the burnt offering. So what is the law of the burnt offering? And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, command Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the law of the burnt offering. It is the burnt offering, because of the burning upon the altar all night unto the morning, and the fire of the altar shall be burning in it. So this is the law right here. They were supposed to have this thing burning all night. Remember, that's in this altar, this bronze altar. So remember, they explain it's pretty big. It's made of bronze. It's probably very heavy, and all day long they're supposed to be having burnt offerings in there. That's why it's called the burnt offering. It's the law of the burnt offering. All night unto the morning, the fire of the altar shall be burning in it, and the priest shall put on his linen garment, and his linen breeches shall he put upon his flesh, and take up the ashes which the fire hath consumed with the burnt offering on the altar, and he shall put them beside the altar. So these linen breeches, these were also explained and mentioned back in towards the end of Exodus, I believe. At the end of Exodus, that's when they not only were they making this tabernacle, they made clothing for the priests, and some of them were these linen breeches that they're mentioning here. So the priest has to put on this garment, these breeches, and then he takes up the ashes. So all day long, this offering, this fire is going, and I think I may have kicked my camera, but I'm okay. So, all day long it's going, and they're the ones responsible for cleaning it out. The priest, they have to get these ashes, and they put them beside the altar. It says, and he shall put off his garments and put on other garments, and carry forth the ashes without the camp unto a clean place. So it's pretty specific here. These guys are having to go, they're having to jump through hoops, it seems like. So not only are they putting on this garment, they got to clean out the ashes, then they got to change their clothes, and then they got to take the ashes outside of the camp to a clean place. So that's interesting. They got to change their clothing to do this. And the fire upon the altar shall be burning in it. It shall not be put out, and the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and lay the burnt offering in order upon it, and he shall burn thereon the fat of the peace offering. So every day, this fire has to be going. They have to restore the wood every morning, all day long. They got to keep it going. They got to clean out the ashes. They got to take it outside of the camp to a clean place. And the fire shall ever be burning upon the altar. It shall never go out. So that's why it's called the burnt offering, the law of the burnt offering. It's going all day long. And it's got to be just what it is all day long. And moving on, we got the law of the meat offering. So these are all kind of combined right here. So, and this is the law of the meat offering. The sons of Aaron shall offer it before the Lord, before the altar. And he shall take of it his handful of the flour of the meat offering, and of the oil thereof, and all the frankincense which is upon the meat offering, and shall burn it upon the altar for a sweet savor, even the memorial of it unto the Lord. So now we got the meat offering here. So you take of it his handful, some meat, you get some flour. So they got to make meat offerings every day too. Or these, from the peace offerings. Like I said, all day long this fire is going, and they've got sacrifices. They got meat. So they got flour on the meat. They put oil, frankincense, and they burn it on the altar, even the memorial. So they're burning everything on the altar, like I said, all day long. And the remainder thereof shall Aaron and his sons eat. With unleavened bread shall it be eaten in the holy place, in the court of the tabernacle, in the of the congregation they shall eat it. So the court, remember, that's this place. So this is a tabernacle. If you remember, it was an enclosure. There's a fence right here, kind of basically. They've got the tent right here. This is basically a big tent. They got the laver, the altar, and all day long they're burning. And and I made mention of it in chapter 5. Keep this in mind that ultimately, even though we may not particularly understand every little complex detail, because like I said, there's 1 million people right now in this camp. And obviously they're not fitting in this tabernacle, but around this tabernacle is their camp with about 1 million people. And we're going to come across some numbers again. I know there were some numbers back in Exodus, but there's going to be some more numbers that show how many people are around. And there's a lot of them. And all day long, they're obviously having to live and survive and live their lives. They're having to go and get animals. They have to eat themselves. So they have to, make their own. They got to be their own butchers, butchering their own animals, making their own. They probably are doing some sort of farming as best they can, coming up with the crops. Remember, they were getting fed with manna at this point. God was giving them manna. All sorts of things, but they're living their lives. And at some point, what's going on is the priests are making the sacrifices for the people who are sinning. And the priests, not only is God getting the sacrifice, but the priests are also getting portions of it. And they are eating it, and they are hanging out. The priests are the ones that are hanging out in this tabernacle. So, keep that in mind. They're bringing these animals to be sacrificed. Sometimes some of these animals are getting, they're being harvested by the priests, and the priests are allowed to eat of it while they're in this courtyard and so forth. And it shall not be baking with leaven. Remember, they're not cooking with leaven. That also comes from Exodus. That's when they fled Egypt. Remember, they were told to, make bread without leaven in it. So this is going back to even Pharaoh and so forth. And obviously, at this point in Leviticus, it's not very long since they had just been in Egypt. It's probably not even a couple of years at this point, if not a few months, perhaps. Let's see. It shall not be making to, I've given it unto them for their portion of my offerings made by fire. It is most holy, as is the sin offering and as the trespass offering. So keep in mind, these offerings are being made to God. And God is saying that I have given them for their portion of my offerings. And it is holy. It's very holy. So these priests are becoming holy because they should be, keep it in mind. It's like they're lucky to have these things because it's going to God. It belongs to God while they're burning it. Something significant, even though, today's modern world, today's modern science, and people think that if you burn something, it's being destroyed. It's destroyed. But God has shown himself to be some sort of force of nature here. He's supernatural. When you burn something, it's going to God. It belongs to him all of a sudden. So even though it's dead as far as we can tell, it belongs to God some way or another. God has it. That is what's interesting to take into mind and to consider, that he has these things, and he has given portions of it to his priests, and it is holy for them. Let's see. Moving on. 19 through 23. The offering of Aaron and his sons. Let's see. Oh, look. All the males among the children of Aaron shall eat of it. It shall be a statute forever in your generations concerning the offerings of the Lord made by fire. Everyone that toucheth them shall be holy. So, all these sacrifices are going to God. And it is a law, it's a statute forever. So God is telling them, this is how it's starting, and you're going to be doing this for all your generations, forever. You're going to have to be doing this. And anyone that touches them is going to be holy. So the priests are holy. They are making the sacrifices for the people who are mostly the people committing the sins. And they are getting their portion for doing their work, I suppose. I could say that right now. But moving on, we got, like I said, the offering of Aaron and his sons. So Aaron is the brother of Moses, and he is the priest. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they shall offer unto the Lord in the day when he is anointed. The 10th part of an ephah of fine flour for a meat offering perpetual, half of it in the morning and half thereof at night. So he's got to get a 10th part of an ephah of fine flour for a meat offering. It's every time he's anointed, they got to do that. And if in a pan it shall be made with the oil, and when it is baken thou shalt bring it in, and the baken pieces of the meat offering shalt thou offer for a sweet savor unto the Lord. So God is basically getting the flour, or the priest Aaron is getting the flour, he's getting the meat, and he's offering it to the Lord. And it says, and the priest of his sons that is anointed in his stead shall offer it. It is a statute forever unto the Lord. It shall be wholly burnt. And of course, they're burning it. For every meat offering for the priest shall be wholly burnt. It shall not be eaten. They're making some more. It's just another set. Like I said, even though I feel like I don't particularly understand it, it's just another They were making multiple sacrifices, different kinds of sacrifices, and they all had their own kinds of rules and regulations. And of course, living in those days, 24/7, you go out there. Aaron was responsible for a lot of this. Him and his sons, they were the priests. Somebody came up to them and said, hey, I sinned against God and this needs to be done. And the priest said, okay, well, let's get it going. The priest had to know what they were doing. And they had to know what kind of sin offering it was, that what kind of, whether the blood should go here or whether the blood should make it all the way over there and so forth. Whether, they got to keep a portion or if all of it needed to be burned. The priests would have been the ones that should have known this. And like I said, even though I don't feel like from this text I fully understand it, these people would have known much better. And God was around, so God was actually speaking to them, especially to Moses in particularly, much more in depth. This is clearly just what was left behind for our records. Let's see. Moving on. Now we go into 24 to 30, the law of the sin offering. So we got right here, verse 25, after the Lord speaking to Moses, saying, "This is the law of the sin offering. In the place where the burnt offering is killed, shall the sin offering be killed before the Lord. It is most holy." So again, right here, when you're making these kills, it's right at the gate. They make the kills. It's the same spot. So it's not only is it the burnt offerings that are killed there, it's the sin offerings that are killed there too. And remember, God is calling them holy. This is if you do something bad, you have to pay for it, and that makes it holy. When this is righteous judgment, and when something is righteous and it's justice is being served, clearly it is holy. That's what God is kind of making a point here, or that's what can be taken from this. The priest that offereth for sin shall eat it. So when you, like I said, you make a sin, the priest that offers it for you gets to eat it. In the holy place shall it be eaten, in the court of the tabernacle of the congregation. And I make mention of that in the last chapter, and I'm sure maybe I've made mention of it in other chapters, is that ultimately that is what the main thing to understand, I feel like, is that the people made sins, and they made their sacrifices to repent, to be forgiven for their sins. And the priests got value out of that. They got to keep some of the portions. However, by the time Jesus comes around, it appears that they have pervaded the whole system and are making the people make sins, and then pretty much just taking everything instead of giving God what was his, so they were stealing from God, and they had just taken over. And that's why it's important to understand that not everything was kept by the priests. Some of it was fully burned, was wholly burnt. Remember, wholly burnt, but some things the priest got to eat of it. Not everything, and that's important to understand, because in the future these priests kind of fall off, and they just take everything instead of giving what belongs to God. And of course, whatsoever shall touch the flesh thereof shall be holy. And when there is sprinkled of the blood thereof upon any garment, thou shalt wash that whereon it was sprinkled in the holy place. So of course God is saying whoever touches these sacrifices is holy. There is something special about them. They've been made holy. And also, whenever there's blood put on any garment, you're supposed to wash that clothing in the holy place. So obviously you're in this holy place. You're in the tabernacle, and if you get blood on your clothing, you wash it, and you wash it in the holy place right here. Let's see. Thou shalt wash it whereon it was sprinkled. So wherever it was, wherever it was sprinkled on. So probably right here, if you got blood on you sprinkled right here, you're supposed to clean it right there. And what you do when you clean it, you put the earthen vessel wherein it is sodden. You put it in a vessel, which is like like a pot or a pan that they would make, an earthen vessel. And wherever you clean it, though, you have to break that earthen vessel. So like a clay pot, for example, they would make the clay pots. They would clean this clothing with the blood on it. And if it was an earth vessel, they had to break it afterwards. But if it was in like a brazen pot, like a metal pot, then it shall both be scoured and rinsed in water. They had to obviously wash that pot really well with the scour. They had to scour it and clean it out with water. So that's another thing to keep in mind. They were when they had to get the ashes out, they had to change clothing, and when they got blood on their clothing, they also had to wash that clothing, and the vessel that they washed it in had to be broken too. So they're being really clean. They have to be really clean for God. God has specific laws to make them clean, to keep them holy. And all the males among the priests shall eat thereof. It is most holy. And no sin offering whereof any of the blood is brought unto the tabernacle of the congregation to reconcile withal in the holy place shall be eaten. It shall be burnt in the fire. So in no sin offering whereof any of the blood brought into the tabernacle of the congregation. That's, keep in mind in chapter 4, when they made these sin offerings, if they were sins made by the priests or the congregation, the blood made it all the way into the holy place right here. So those sin offerings, so when the sins are made by the priests or the sin is made by the congregation, then the priests will not eat those. And that's what I was just saying a few verses earlier. But all the other sin offerings, they can. So the sin offerings by the rulers and by the individuals, and that's back in chapter 4, those, the blood did not make it into the holy place. And right here it says that they got to eat those. So that's what's going on. So when the sins are made by the priests or the congregation, the priests are not allowed to eat of it. But when it's made by the individuals or by the rulers, then they got to keep it and they got to eat of it. And it's made them holy. So, yep, and that is chapter 6 right here. Giving, more laws regarding these offerings here. So let's see, and I just kind of want to make sure I get this all set up. But yeah, that's the end of this chapter, and I'll go ahead and end this video right around now. Just kind of give a quick recap, another recap of what it was that we studied in this chapter. What we went over in this chapter is laws of the offering. And ultimately, like I said, what it is to keep in mind is that there's about 1 million people right now running around in this encampment, and this tabernacle was made back in Exodus, and God is telling them that the people are ultimately supporting the priests. The priests and the people are sinning against God. Remember, what this is like a court. God is their king. He is their leader, and he is making their laws. If you do something bad, you got to come pay, and the priests get to keep a portion of what you have to pay. And that's their system. That's how it works. And anybody who, when you're forgiven, if you do these things, and more so, you're holy if you are responsible for making the sacrifices. The priests are holy. They're special. They're special. There's something going on, and that's the gist of what it is. Even though they've got a lot more regulations that perhaps aren't entirely translatable to today's world in our court system, because it just really isn't. That is the gist of what's going on. Sins. You pay for your sins with sacrifices. The priests get a portion of that, but not all the time. It is ultimately you're making your sacrifices to God, to the Lord, and they are his, and he is giving a portion to the priests. Okay? But in the future chapters, obviously, we'll go on. We'll expand more on that, I believe. In the next chapter, there's going to be even more laws regarding these sacrifices and so forth. But yeah, like I said, I'll go ahead and end this video now. And I, just per usual, as I always say, if you like what I'm doing, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. It's chapter by chapter Bible study. I'm just going to keep going chapter by chapter with this same format. And I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen. And